Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of the Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of my past guests have included Paranj Patel of Clearlines Group, Andy Schwartz of One Point BFG Wealth Partners, and Shannon Rosick of Informa Connect. Today, I'm speaking with Brian Hyman, co-founder of Meadow Solutions. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using Quick, you'll be able to generate completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. All right, I've been looking forward to talking with Brian. Brian's the co-founder of Meadow Solutions, a wealth tech advisory focused on helping clients make the right decisions when it comes to technology and then act on them. They're the guys that help your firm make critical decisions and then are still around 6 months later, actually 6 years later, to ensure the outcomes are achieved. And I'm also really excited to talk with Brian because we've been working together for over a year now, and Meadow is an official partner of Quick, enabling us to provide higher quality support and outcomes for customers using Salesforce. In fact, we're just now bringing to market a new Quick solution for Salesforce that Meadow's built and implements for our customers. This is going to make going live natively in Salesforce 10 times faster, easier, and better. So Brian, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Thanks, Rich. So happy to be here.
All right. For my guests who have never heard my podcast before, I love to talk to business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. So Brian, I want to understand your business a lot better. How does your company really help people?
Yeah, so Meadow Solutions, obviously, like you said, wealth tech advisory. We partner closely with our clients. I think, as we have built the business out, the number one thing that has been most important to me in building out these client relationships has been building trust early and often with our clients, truly treating them as partners, saying, look, we both have skin in this game. We're going to partner together closely to drive successful outcomes. I learned from a young age from my father that your word is everything, and it takes decades to build that into something, and only moments to lose it. So I take that into every engagement, every partnership, every client relationship that I have. And we are solely focused on delivering successful outcomes for our clients in whatever way those present themselves.
So I think it's kind of an interesting contrast. A lot of companies have a product to sell, like we do. We have a product. You can use it. You can try it. You can do the proof of concept. And that's one of the ways in which we can get people to trust what we do. That's what we do, right? How we do it behind the scenes takes longer. But how do people do that with you when you're advising them? How do they build that, and how long does it take?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a couple answers to that. So one, I think that the reason why I was interested in starting a service organization is because I felt the need first as a buyer. So sitting on the buy side, I was constantly evaluating the build versus the buy decision. And sometimes we would go with buy and we would contract vendors, and other times we really felt like we needed a service organization to partner closely with us for other reasons, maybe to integrate some of the software products that we had already bought, maybe to teach us additional use cases, to give a top-down evaluation and see where our gaps were. I think that the advantages of a service organization is they're working with clients like you. So you benefit from perspective that they've gained from other engagements with firms similar to yours. And I think that I've come to really appreciate perspective throughout my career. And that's what we try to bring to these engagements. So we're happy to partner with companies like yours that are selling products. And we even have built some of our own products and use those as ways to give price transparency, speed up development timelines, and really put a layer of predictability into our delivery, where typically you don't really see that with services organizations as much as you do with product-based companies like yours. So trying to blend the two together, but also partner with companies like yours, the best in breed, the heads of industry that are offering out these incredible products to the rest of the industry and bring those to the forefront, help those vendors get a little bit more visibility and usability by their end customers, and then also help customers discover companies that may have been around for 20 plus years that they've never heard of before. Because nowadays, it's like there's product companies sprouting up all over the place, and there's just so much noise out there. You see it in everything that you do. And so if we can help clients sort of narrow in and have that level of focus, I think that also helps to drive successful outcomes.
I agree. I want to push a little deeper because look, my mom and I started our company. And what most people don't know is we actually started in 1999 as consultants doing service like you. And it wasn't until 2001 when I came up with Quick, because I left her to go become a planner, that we said, hey, let's build Quick together and launch it in 2002. But there was something that we said about working together, which is we learned early on that in just moments of talking to people, we somehow engendered trust with them. I don't know if it was the rapport building. I don't know if it's so hard to articulate. And this is actually where I want to push to, because it's not enough to say you can try my product and you can look at our customer success. They have to like you. Mm-hmm. And I know because, Brian, you reached out to Quick unannounced. You were not referred in by somebody I knew, a known quantity or anything like that. It was just like, Rich, I have this idea. I want to see if we can work together. And I immediately felt good. And when I introduced you to my chief strategy officer, who was newer to our company, he said, dude, within 30 seconds, I love Brian. What do you think that is? How do you get there? Told you I'm going to push.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, look, there are a lot of ways to answer that. I think that just finding common ground with people, finding ways to share ideas and um, just create that level of buy-in that only comes from meaningful conversation, pushing back when you disagree, but also recognizing that you know what you know, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know. I think having that level of openness, and it's going to come back to what I said at the beginning of the conversation, which is just prioritizing building trust with people. Like, come as you are, be open, be transparent, and be open-minded. I think those are some of the attributes that I try to bring into my relationship building efforts. And glad to hear that that worked with Ken and worked with you. I think it's something that I'm working on constantly as a leader. People don't always like me when they first meet me, so I think it takes the right relationship dynamics, the right personalities in the room, the right problem, and the right mission. And I think that we shared all of those things from day one, which is why this has been such an exciting relationship and partnership. And it just worked out at the end of the day. But I guess that's my take.
I'm sorry if I made it uncomfortable, because I see a whole perspective here. This is a unique show in my world because I have been a customer of Meadow, essentially. And I have seen how you have delivered a customer experience. And you might recall 8 months ago when we were talking about partnering together, where we discussed the idea that you could help us on frontline support with our customers who are having challenges with Salesforce. And now we've embedded 30 hours of work with your team to serve our Salesforce customers up front. Like, that's part of the deal now. And the question I was asking was, Brian, dude, do you know our CSAT score is 99%? How are you going to live up to that? Do you know how fast we respond? We have an average 24-minute response time to messages. How is your team going to live up to that? Like, how can I trust you guys to live at the same level of quality and response, et cetera? And you do. You guys do. So I'm going to point back to something. I think your company culture shows this because everybody on your team has acted in this way. Also, I have put your team recently through very tough conversations with feedback. And the outcome's always like, thank you. Not, I hate that guy.
Yeah, I mean, look, iron sharpens iron, right? So I think that the company culture is what it is because of the people at High Meadow, and I always viewed talent as a differentiator. I mean, especially in the service organization, and so I think it's been so important to foster that company culture and to hire the right people. And part of the reason why we have this is because we've built this business through our own personal network. So the people that work at High Meadow Solutions are all people that I've worked with directly for many years, or my partner David Masry has worked with directly for many years, or Sean Arnold, my other partner. So we've built the team out through these close personal relationships. And this didn't happen by accident. It's so incredible to hear someone be complimentary of the folks on my team who I see them working day in and day out. And look, I am regularly reprimanded by my wife for working long hours, early mornings, and very, very late nights. And as a founder, that's expected, right? You know that, Rich. I mean, I saw you up on Slack the other night. The little green bubble was on. I know Rich is working late too, so I'm gonna do the same thing. But you don't regularly see that from employees, and I think that's part of the magic that we have here at High Meadow is making every employee feel like they own a piece and empowering them to make decisions and to execute independently. I think that they're all motivated by their growth path, and we've invested so much time and so many resources in making sure that they have that path in front of them, that they feel like we're constantly pushing them in the right direction, giving them the nudge when they need it to move to the next level and be comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that look, we have a ton of gratitude for the people on our team, and I think that they have a ton of gratitude for the ways in which we've empowered them and pushed them to be more and to be better. I've told every single person that's joined High Meadow, look, I want this to be the best decision that you ever made in your life to come and join this company, and I'm going to fight like hell to make sure that that's the case. And so investing in company culture is where I started. You said this on one of the episodes that I was listening to, that in building Quick, you were really just building the company that you wanted to work for yourself. I feel the same exact way. That's exactly what I was doing at High Meadow Solutions. And I've been a part of good company cultures. I've been a part of bad company cultures. And so I know what right looks like and I know what wrong looks like. And we're trying to strike that balance.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I think there's an undercurrent here, which is I believe, and I think you believe, and you can tell me if you don't, but I believe that company culture actually is what drives the customer experience. That how people experience your company is a direct reflection of company culture. I'd even go so far to say in a business to business world, your company culture is your brand. It's what you're promising. I'm promising to my customers, you're going to love working with us because we love what we do, that you're going to get the product that works because we designed it to be intuitive and straightforward. You're going to get amazing, outstanding customer success and service because that's what we want for ourselves. And then you're going to have dependability because we're going to do what we say we're going to do because that's what we have to do internally here. And I always joke, like, if you want to stop swearing in public, you have to stop swearing at home first. And that's company culture, right? How you live, breathe, eat, sleep, et cetera at home. is how you show up in the world. So do you feel like that's a reflection of High Meadow as well?
Yeah, 100%. I fully agree with that. And look, the company culture bleeding into client success and delivery, it goes back to, are the people that work at the company going to bend over backwards for their customers to ensure that they're successful because they care about the mission that the company has taken up, right? If they care about the mission, then you have successful and impactful company culture. And so I think you're exactly correct. It is a direct reflection of the culture that you've fostered, and that's a direct reflection of the trust that you've built with your customers internally, I should say, with the people that work at your company.
Yeah. Yeah. I want Quick to be the last place everybody works. Like, this is the best experience I've ever had, similar to you. This is why we get along. This is why we're partnering together. And it took some time to really come to that light and understand it. Let's talk about the product that you guys built, because honestly, it was your vision. You proposed it to me, which I was so grateful you did, because it's been a gap. But what was the problem that you saw? And I don't want to make this an infomercial about Quick, but I think we have this unique opportunity to talk about how we saw a customer problem and how we went to fix that problem and create a better experience. So I want to hear it from your perspective. What was it you saw, and how did you want to fix it?
It's funny. As you progress through your career, you look back and you try to find commonalities, so that you can continue to leverage those experiences that you've had and build on top of them. And as I've looked back on my career, every single thing that I've done has been, and in sometimes varying industries, right? Hedge fund space, institutional asset management, real estate, wealth management, always trying to create the same thing, which is one unified platform. And when I became really, really invested in wealth management years ago, everybody was talking about the same thing. Everybody's still talking about the same thing. I want one unified advisor experience, and I need that to power my client relationships, because I can't be logging into this portal and then swivel chairing, logging in over here, and then I got to run to a client review, and I don't have everything with me. So my CSA is texting me information that I need for that meeting, and I'm going into my client meeting all discombobulated. Whereas if I had one unified platform, I should be able to take all the insights that I need out of it in seconds and move on. And so I think our angle has always been finding ways to empower clients, RIAs and broker dealers and other advisories to have that one unified platform. Well, a big piece of that is the onboarding experience, which typically is very forms heavy. And so we identified Quick early on as the best solution, because of the comprehensive forms library and all of the technology that you've built for field mapping and object mapping and DocuSign integration. And so it really, I think you're giving me a little bit too much credit, because you did all of the hard work in creating such a comprehensive solution. And my idea, as immature as it was, hey, Rich built something really cool. Let's just pull it in here. Like, everything that Rich has, just copy, paste right here into this view. And then the operational and technology leaders within these RIAs and broker dealers, they can make the decision about where they want it to sit within their platform. So do they want it to be an application that only certain teams have access to within Salesforce, or do they want to embed it within existing workflows that they've already built in Salesforce? Either way, you have all of the extensible tools from Quick available now fully in Salesforce, and it truly looks like Salesforce native. So you don't have that kludgy experience that sometimes integrations have, where it's like, I'm in Salesforce, but now this thing doesn't look like Salesforce, and it messes with my eyes, and I don't know where to click around the screen. And that drives poor user adoption, which drives less usage, which doesn't drive the successful outcomes that we're both looking for. So, just creating it in a truly Salesforce native way to drive that enhanced experience has been so powerful. And I think you're actually the one that deserves a massive amount of credit for being able to do that because look, we've done this before. We've worked with other companies, and I can't tell you how many times working with other companies that we were building these integrations for, where they had all of these demands about how they wanted to drive their own UI and UX elements into Salesforce, which you know it negated our ability, to drive that native feeling experience. And so now you're being counterproductive, right? Your users are in Salesforce and they have that, that unified experience, but it's not a native experience. And so it's confusing, it's clunky, and they don't end up getting out of it what the users of Quick on Salesforce are ultimately going to get out of it.
No, I appreciate all that. I really do. And I still give you credit because you started with this problem of how do we create a unified platform for our customers with a native Salesforce experience? And that was something I couldn't answer. Honestly, we couldn't do the native 100% because it was always iframing in a visual force page, the form viewer, and it always felt like you're popping up into something else. And if you didn't put in the effort to truly make it look like your native system, which is a lot of effort, then you ran the risk of users going, oh, this is a third-party tool. Do I trust it? Do I know what I'm getting? How is it interacting? And on top of that, the implementation of just a normal quick form viewer was hard. People had to build these really incredible connectors from the layers of objects of technology there. And then they ran into all sorts of payload problems, security risk problems. Salesforce is really hard on security, as you know. And while we've passed security for Salesforce for 15 years now, it still takes effort on every single implementation. So the second thing that you guys, I'll give myself the credit here. Second thing that we collaborated on was how do we create a footprint for our customers on Salesforce so that they come to us because they want a bespoke experience. They want it to be their Salesforce experience. They've invested heavily in it. They don't want to throw somebody out. But to build it, the first 80% of the effort takes the first 80% of the time. And what you've built is reducing that effort to zero practically. I mean, in just a couple of hours, you effectively have the mapping done, you have the pre-designed workflow built out, and all of which can be augmented, changed, totally customized to your needs. You want to change the steps, go for it. And I'm not saying it's like turnkey 100%, like, hey, you can just go, but it could be right out of the box, right? In fact, you guys set up our demo environment, turnkey, took no effort, just like go use it. But if a customer wants it to do 10 more things and integrate with other systems and all that, it's so easy now. So, and Brian, I thank you because you guys brought a lot of intellect from the Salesforce world that we just didn't have to make this possible. All right, Brian, let's switch topics a little bit. We have had this whole conversation without mentioning AI even once. How do you see AI playing out in Salesforce worlds and affecting this unified platform that you have this vision for?
Oh, man. I could talk about AI for way too long. We have had so much fun innovating with AI and also using AI to drive successful outcomes and faster delivery for our clients. I think, as I think about AI and how we use AI to deliver successful outcomes to our clients in the wealth management industry, I use Meadow as our test dummy, so to speak. So everything that we preach to our clients, we're preaching it because we did that first as an organization. So, obviously everybody started with the transcription tools and meeting highlights and things like that. And we were messing around with transcription tools years ago, honestly, before they were all the rage. And I think that has extended itself into context and intelligence layers and agentic workflows that we use at Meadow to make us better, faster, smarter. And I think you just, as an organization, have to have the right guardrails in place, because you have to understand where you should be using AI, where you should not be using AI. So I want to use AI to gather as much actionable intelligence as possible. And then as a human, I'm going to act on that intelligence. But I'm not going to trust AI to start emailing my clients and reaching out and drafting content that I'm going to share. I think that there are do's and don'ts. And with the proliferation of AI, what's become abundantly clear to me is that being human, being authentically yourself, is more valuable now than ever. And so we lead with that principle first, right? It should be used as a tool to extend your own capabilities. And as a founder led business, I've had these moments through building out High Meadow where I think to myself, like, man, I reviewed 10 different contracts today. I never would have been able to do this without AI. It just makes me faster, and I don't miss things, and I can use AI to check my own work and make sure that I'm pointing out blind spots, and when they're revealed to me, I can dig into them faster as a human, right? So using
Yeah.
it in that way, and also using it from a coding perspective to develop tools faster, to QA things faster. Look, we've replaced a lot of our own internal subscriptions with custom developed applications, and I know that that's something that can be a little bit controversial, the whole build versus buy dilemma. And I think that that's an evaluation that every organization needs to make. And there are sometimes, build answers and sometimes buy answers. And so I feel really comfortable talking to our clients about how they should be leveraging AI and how they should be rolling it out to the rest of their organization, because I did that at High Meadow first. And I dealt with, the people first at High Meadow, that maybe were a little bit hesitant to jump into using artificial intelligence, right? You have people who, I don't think we really had like the doomsdayers at High Meadow, because we're a tech company and we tend to be very forward looking when it comes to technology. So not as many of like it's going to access all my stuff, and then I'm going to it's going to drain my bank account. It's going to reach out to people via Gmail, my personal email. I'm going to get fired. We didn't really have to overcome a lot of that. And I've definitely run into that with some of our clients, because I think ultimately you fear what you don't understand. And so the people that fear AI the most are the people that understand AI the least. And that's the
So
approach
Brian,
that I.
no, sorry, you used the word human many, many times in talking about AI,
Yeah.
which is something I like a lot. And one of the premises I hear more often now is that the CRM is going to be a data source. It's going to be a background aspect. It's no longer the human interface need that we have all had. And I find that to be a strange dichotomy, because the CRM is about relationships with people. It's about how you manage your interactions with clients. It's how you're doing your work. It's how you're engaging your employees to do work. How is this theme that the CRM is going to go away and be relegated to some kind of pipeline or data source make sense? Does it?
Um, right now, no, I don't subscribe to that. I think that, look, it's incredibly difficult to project where we're going to be 1 year from now, let alone 5 years from now. So sure, maybe 5 years from now, we're all driving spaceships, and everything is in these like contact lenses that shows us everything all at once, all at the same time. Sure. I think for now, you really still need a CRM, truly. And part of the reason why is you need that structure. So I remember, for example, I'm going to bring this back to an example that we lived, at High Meadow Solutions. We implemented Notion as sort of like our collective company brain. And Notion's a really powerful tool. It's awesome. And you can do so many things with it. You can connect it to so many different sources. And you can run Notion headless, which is what we're doing. One of the problems with Notion, however, is it doesn't have the rigid structure that a CRM would have. So if I'm using Notion and Rich is using Notion and we're both integrated with it and running it headless in the background, and you're uploading a client interaction and I'm uploading a separate interaction with a separate client, we might upload those two records in two completely different ways because there's not that rigid structure put in place, right? If you don't see the right field that you want to enter this criteria for, you might just say, yeah, just do what you need to do, just create a new field. And so that can create the data health issues that we've dealt with for decades in this space. And so that's where having that structure in a Salesforce or a Dynamics, a Practify, et cetera, I think it's incredibly valuable so that you enforce that there's only one way to do this. There's only one way to log a client interaction. There's only one way to log a partner account, et cetera. So that's one thing. The other thing is that just as easy as it is now to vibe code a CRM replacement, it is equally easy to break in to a vibe coded CRM. And I think that there are so many people, again, that just don't understand technology. And now with AI, we've democratized code development and deployment, but we have not democratized best standards. Just because you bring all of these people, it's like if we could all shoot the three like Jalen Brunson, it doesn't mean that we would, operate an offense as effectively as Jalen Brunson, right? I'm a Knicks fan. Knicks just won. Had to plug that in there. Um, but so I think that there is still so much to be said about the value that enterprise architecture, enterprise security, and all the other things that come with enterprise CRM have to a growing organization. I actually think it's more important now than ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. We could keep going on for about an hour on security alone. I have a lot to say about that myself, but I'm running out of time. Before I get to my very last question, what is the best way for people to find and connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Brian Hyman, High Meadow Solutions. You can also find our website online, highmeadowsolutions.com.
Perfect. All right. So at the end of all my shows, I like to end with this one question I love to ask. And it's, who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role today?
Yeah, I think there's two answers to that. One is my father. My dad moved to this country from Argentina with nothing, and helped to put himself through college and start his own business. And I watched him build that business from the ground up. And that was my upbringing, and that was the reason why I wanted to become an entrepreneur. Plain and simple. I think it takes an enormous amount of drive and motivation to make that decision to go out on your own and really bet on yourself. And so I credit my dad with that, and with instilling the right values and work ethic. But there's also someone else that's very near and dear to my heart, Matt Bernard, who's been my mentor for a very, very long time, basically an older brother to me. And worked for him. First job out of college at Enso, which was the first company that he started, was a treasury management and post trade analytics tool. And now I keep in touch with him very closely. Obviously, Matt, he started Meet Perry, of which we are both members. And, he's been a mentor for me for a long time. And I have conversations with him regularly about leadership and about leading by example, and setting the tone for the organization. And I think a lot of what I saw working well when it comes to company culture and building relationships and building trust with your clients to drive successful outcomes, that came from my time at Enso, and obviously watching Matt and the way that he worked. So owe a lot to him. Very grateful for his mentorship.
I only met him a year ago, but I think the world of him as well. And if anybody's listening and you've never heard of Meet Perry, there's a reason. You have to be invited. If you are invited, somebody thinks very highly of you. So consider it. All right, I got to wrap this up. I want to give a huge thank you to Brian Hyman of High Meadow Solutions for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Brian's website at highmeadowsolutions.com. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easier. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for future episodes of The Customer Wins. Brian, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks very much, Rich. This was awesome.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.